What's up, guys? I'm SaltEMike, and this is your Star Citizen Week in Review for March 16th, 2026. 4.7 is finally on a public PTU, and I'm really enjoying myself. With that, we have our first look at the Rockbreaker stations, and they just aren't hitting on the reward side for me, and SCL reveals some pretty crazy stuff coming for the FPS experience. All that and more on today's Week in Review. And as always, if this is your first Week in Review, this is where I take all of the official Star Citizen news each week, put it into one video, and share some of my opinions about it. I also live stream on Twitch, twitch.tv/SaltEMike. So stop by and say hi if you haven't yet, as I always enjoy seeing you guys over there. We have a ton to get through today. So before we do, let me share with you today's sponsor. Thank you to Boot.dev for sponsoring today's video. Yes, they're back again for you armchair developers in the comments. It's about time you became a backend web developer using Boot.dev's innovative and really smart lessons towards your goals. You will learn backend web development from start to finish with Python, SQL, and Go programming languages. But what makes these lessons so different and cool is they use modern game design to create a self-paced but captivating RPG game that teaches you how to code. You earn XP, levels, and achievements by completing quests or fighting bosses while learning to code. They have a variety of courses, but my favorite thing is fairly new. It's the training grounds, where you can grind infinite challenges to give you practice for things you might be struggling with before you forge ahead onto new parts of the coursework. You are learning to code by doing what you will actually do at your job, which is building real projects. So if you're bored, you're just gonna quit, right? If you're just doing lessons all the time. But Boot.dev's style of teaching helps keep you engaged. Now here's the really cool part. All of Boot.dev's content is free to read and watch in guest mode. The paid membership just unlocks the interactive features like hands-on coding, AI assistance, progress tracking, and the game mechanics. And with that, Boot.dev never wants their students to feel like they aren't getting value, so they offer you a 30-day no questions asked refund policy, as well as a free demo of every coursework and its interactive features. So what are you missing? Head over to Boot.dev and use my code SaltEMike to get 25% off your entire first year if you choose the annual plan. So once again, that's SaltEMike for 25% off your first payment at Boot.dev. And with all the bills paid, let's get into those patch notes. All right, we'll start out on Monday with a 4.7 Wave 1 PTU. First off, this was the first time 4.7 was shown publicly, and I want to start out with something that might be a really interesting change, but we'll have to see how it plays out. We know there are 3 versions of the Rockbreaker stations from last week's updates. The exclusive version's costs went up to $850K in this patch, and the contested version is $125K. And the version with the missions just won't have a rock, so you could just check it out and enjoy the views while you're there doing missions, because that missions will bring you to those locations, just other missions like kill quests. The intentions here are great, I think. Having skin in the game is far better than, say, a Hathor, where the only risk is PvP. But what if you're on a dead server? Now, the players decide the economy in this game, right? So whether CIG and their team likes it, it doesn't matter. We decide what the value of stuff is. So they're gonna have to be agile here and adjust through either the PTU and beyond in live for this to work out well. I did a video on the channel for the whole process here, all the rewards and all that stuff, and we talked about that. So check it out if you haven't yet, because that video I'm somewhat proud of. It's something different than I've ever done before. But the rewards right now are basically 2 minerals: Taurite, which are in abundance, and Cevrilium, which is a small amount. Cevrilium is used in the kind of some of the best weapon builds. So if you want to do this, you're going to have to do this if you want to create those. They chat quickly about the new inventory system, which I don't have a lot of good things to say about. It's kind of slow to load. It has still 3D icons and generally feels about the same, but different to the old one. Same but different isn't better. Then we get to talk about something I hinted in last week's episode. I want to say that I got the blueprints all wrong. but it wasn't really me. The notes were, right? The sets of blueprints are linked to certain missions. There was no way for us to recognize that with the notes saying what they were. So if you want to get something specific, you have to target it. What's important in the notes here is Vaughn missions are involved, Headhunters, CFP. A lot of these mission grinds will hide other missions from you as you gain a path in one of those directions. So you might need help from other people if you want certain blueprints, or certain weapons that you don't have blueprints for and you can't get the blueprints for. There are a few AI-made websites that are constantly popping up now with information on these exact things. So if you need them, I'll link them in the description for you, along with all the other sources of Week in Review. So check that out. I always put all my sources here. This isn't just me making stuff up. Dismantled quality isn't really feeling great in this specific patch as it's down to 300. So material kind of crafting with dismantled stuff just doesn't really feel good, and you can't do a lot of it because the minimum is 500 for crafting materials on the blueprints. But there are additions later in the week, so we'll touch on them in a bit. They made some changes for pricing of things like the Redeemer, which was reduced. The Fab is increased. The Fab is the thing where you do the crafting on. It was 95 credits in Evo. It's now 95k. By the way, you get to set the refinery decks in-game, so if you left without yours and you need another one, that's where you get them. Then the Stinger and Shiv have been added to the ship shops, along with a bunch of new rentals, including the Golem, I think, is there. Tuesday, the build failed, so we'll move on to Wednesday, where we had a 4.7 Wave 3 PTU. This opened up to a lot more people. There was a bit of breaker station polish and some inventory UI changes, but dedicated blueprints were added for the rock breaker missions, and they continue to add more blueprints here. So certain things at rock breaker you're going to have to do the rock breaker event for if you want to get those blueprints. And for some reason, they're just now mentioning the people's service stations. They're solid stations with very little transport involved. We love that. Nothing bad to say about them. They're just them. And again, still going away from the whole pyro was going to be really big and you were going to need to refuel and blah, 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 blah. They realized that that wasn't fun and went away from it. So they're doing the same thing here. And lastly, some updates to ships like the 890 getting the largest radar and some incredibly vague changes to bombers. Thursday, we had a 4.7 Wave 3 PTU still, and in this patch, we see, of course, more balance for the breaker station missions. The key thing here being guaranteed spawns of Severilium in each section, as they say. The higher the yield you get, the more sections open up when you crack the big rock. There's like little tunnel kind of things. And that you'll notice if you don't do it at 100%, there'll be like a blockage to a Severilium rock. Then some more inventory tweaks, but the big one here is in the crafting section. They updated the minables to stack. So this is so much nicer than what we had before. I can now see myself storing high, medium, and low quality gems in certain boxes and stuff like that. They also made it so you can't get trapped in the fab. You guys are weird, the fact that you even figured that out. For ships, we can now swap radars. Military grade A pushes you out to about 1,300 meters for assist, but uses more pips. So just think about the choice that you're going to have to create here. Kind of cool, I think. You might need a bigger power plant if you want to go with the bigger radar, which then raises your signature, which makes you more susceptible to missiles. So all that sounds pretty good. They increased the armor of a number of ships as well. 4.7 Open PTU happened on Friday. There are two things here. They just set armor and weapon blueprints to have no quality requirements now, but if you use low quality materials, you're going to get negative stats. What low quality means is anything below 500. So they're just trying things out to see what sticks, it feels like. I don't entirely get why I would want to make a bad weapon, though. Makes no sense to me. They also gave us the ability to craft ammo now, but that requires no minimum. So the stats, because there are no stats on the ammo, it's just ammo. So maybe that's what we use our bad quality mats for, but again, just weird. Then they upped the dismantle value to 500, which I don't know if I like yet, but again, let's see how it plays out, because you're just then making base weapons, which is totally fine, I guess. Again, we're just going to have to see over time if this is good. Then for bug fixes, they fixed an issue where players can steal your guns if they knock you. That's a big one for this crafting stuff. And then no need to bring a medical ship to the exclusive rock breaker stations. You can now set your spawn there, but not the contested version. So just the exclusive. The issue here is this is going to play out just like the Apex Valacar fight. People can just respawn there while you're doing the content. Dumb? Change it, CIG. With that, that was all the patches this week. Lots of cool stuff. Let's move into roadmap updates. All All right, for roadmap roundup, nothing crazy here to share, as it's basically the theme of this roadmap is everything is now set to committed, including the crafting stuff, which if you follow Answer the Call podcast, link in the description, my co-host Kranzi made a bet with me that crafting would not be in. And the wager was I get to create his character for the 2-month cycle of 4.7. It's going to be a monster. Other things listed are the Max Ox Size 3 rework, FPS weapon art refactor, a lot more weapons here than I expected, QV stations, of course, the Apollo triage is now in Wicklow, and the rest stops in Nyx are committed as well. Really looking forward to what might show in 4.8 this patch. It's really awesome so far in the PTU for me, and I'm really engaged with the crafting stuff. We have a pretty big SCL to cover, so let's jump into the video updates. All right, and this SCL was with the FPS gameplay team, and this was a community Q&A show. This was a long one with a lot of information that was vague and hard to understand, where we're kind of going with things at times because they're still figuring it all out. So I might not cut out as much as I normally would and just stick with the quick hits for many of the discussion points. The first question I felt worth pulling out and has an interesting but also frustrating answer. And all of this will be a bit of a theme for the show.
Oh, there's always going to be a gadgets question. Any progress on gadgets like trip sensors, scanners, remote detonated charges, and so on?
So I've got an answer, and it has the word Squadron 42 in, so I'm going to read it off the page. Currently, we have the deployable shield, breaching charge, and some other bits in Squadron 42, and do plan on shipping that in the PU in the future. We also have an area denial grenade coming this year as well. We plan to add more gadgets in the future, and we do like doing some surprise community wants like the binoculars, which are much asked for.
Yeah, it's always a little frustrating to hear all the stuff that's in the game that we paid for, but we don't get to play yet. But I have to say the area denial grenade, something like a Molly from Counter-Strike, is something that I think would be really fun and useful to use in the PU. We really don't have anything like that right now. Next, they touch on some of the heavier weapons and how they change our decisions with armor choices.
When weapons like the pulverizer have a slowdown effect from having them equipped on the back, are there plans to give them weapon inertia as well, as in they handle slower than other weapons?
So just to start off that, they don't have a slowdown effect, they just weigh a lot, and depending on how much weight you have on your character moves slower. Mm-hmm. So we don't do like this gives you a 20% movement speed debuff just because you have this weapon on. It's systemic, there's weight, the more weight you have, the more you slow down. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the heavier the weapon is, the more weapon inertia you get. So if you've got heavier arms, it's easier to handle heavier weapons. So if you're wearing like light arms and you have an LMG, you'll essentially have a lot more weapon sway. Think with the Fresnel, how long that takes to correct the sight picture. That's an example of something that, if you had light and you picked up heavy, it's a way of saying, cool, do you want to fit in the archetype, that fantasy of being like, oh, I'm a super heavy armor wearing, I've got my LMG, I'm walking in a location, versus like, oh, I'm light and I've got a pistol. Because as you know, in real life, the shorter the barrel of a weapon is, the lighter it is, the easier it is to move around.
I like the idea of this from the sway standpoint. Us running around with LMGs as if they were pistols was always just weird. I'm curious, or like SMGs, right? Like what the light archetype will look like versus heavy armors, like how it will feel, that kind of stuff. And then they go into something that I've wanted to see changed for years.
Like the way we're going to make lights versus mediums versus heavies and flight suits, like very different, and actually a choice you make is there's damage mitigation. We're going to up the damage mitigation on mediums and heavies to give you a higher TTK.
Beyond what they are right now.
Beyond where they are now, yeah.
Which gets obviously offset with crafting and the improvements that come with weapons. So.
Yeah, so me and Deck, who was on crafting, are in this interesting situation where obviously you only have between 0 and 100 to play with, and we're having to like meter out and share the percentages we can go up. Yeah. So I can go up to this, and then crafting will take you up to this. So yeah, that's an interesting thing to to have to take into account.
I want to see light, medium, and heavy armor each have a purpose, not just heavy. But the higher TTK that they mention will be interesting. People already talk about it being too high. I wonder how they will react to this news. In this one, we hear about how flight suits work and how other suits will affect your flight.
The ability to have your MFDs cast to the visor, which I think everyone has right now when they sit in the ship, that's going to be for flight-specific helmets. And ship handling as well will be impacted by wearing medium or heavy armors. So that means that your inputs are slower. So if you make a hard turn, it will take it slower if you've got medium and heavy armor on.
G-force resistance.
And G-force as well will be lower in those suits, so you'll pass out quicker. We're also increasing the G-force tolerance in things like the combat and racing flight suits, so it's not all just a negative.
Not gonna lie, I gotta say, I think I like this. As long as swapping suits inside your ship is quite simple, which I imagine it will be. But what about the single seaters, right? I think this will add more preparation or specialization for players, and that might be fun. We'll see. And this is a long one, so strap in. I edited it down as much as I could, but Luke breaks down most of the armor types we are getting and what they do.
Flight suits. We've got racing flight suits. Amazing G-force resistance, really good environmental resistances. So, you know, if you're racing in a car on all kinds of planets, you'll be fine.
And I hear that's the flight suits getting their G-force resistance is not necessarily a far away thing.
No, I think Yoga's working on it very soon.
Yeah.
But they have no radar. They're like super stripped down, no EVA. And really poor damage mitigation because they're basically just kind of levers. Combat flight suits, which do have EVA, they have better damage mitigation, bigger inventory, but slightly reduced G-force and poor environmental resistances because they're made for space, right? Then you've got the combat armors. You've got the assault armors, which make up the majority of our armors right now. And these are the pure combat armors. We've got the best at absorbing damage, good radar for finding humans, and but they'll lack EVA.
Yeah.
Stealth armors, again, we've talked about. They reduced emissions and sounds. The hunter armors we've talked about is the only combat armor to have EVA, and it has an amazing radar for finding people. They'll see you coming more though, and it has less damage mitigation. Utility armors. Medical can scan health. So when you do a scan, it will show you the health of people around you and various other things, and it can locate downed players from much further away. Like specifically, you know, that's its thing.
So if you have
right?
a medic armor.
Yeah, so if you do a scan, you're going to pick up the down players that you wouldn't normally pick up just by IR and EM. There's engineers, and they can reveal the positions and health of components. No, just this one. And resource specialists, these are like the salvagers and miners. We have an amazing resource radar. And hopefully we'll reveal details about minables that you would otherwise have to go up to and scan, like from a distance.
So you can be on the surface or whatever, scan, send your ping out and see the things. You don't have to go to it to find out.
I'd say it's more for being in caves where there's that kind of distance. It's still a distance to go, but you know, if you scan and then focus on a rock that is 50 meters away, you might get some more information than that otherwise you would have to.
Over to it.
Yep. And then you've got the Explorer, which is like the jack of all trades. It's got kind of good utility. It's got the crosshair. It's got good environmental resistances, and it can scan resources. Its damage resistance is fine, but it's not a combat armor. And then you've got all the other kind of very specialist things. You've got EVA, heat, cold, and radiation. And they hopefully speak for themselves.
First highlight for me is the engineer. This one's my favorite. I think all of those resource specialists we have are also very good on the value as well. The idea that it can see details about minables, I think, is why our multi-tool mining attachment doesn't show those details right now. So if you're in the PTU looking for quality, you can't see it unless you use your ship to see it, and it has to be a mining ship. It's very annoying. But the Explorer kind of shows that, exploration is still not something that they have figured out. And the last clip is a big one, pun intended.
Is there anything planned to make something stronger than heavy armor?
Yes.
Yep.
Super heavy.
And that is not just a new armor set either. That comes with a lot of restrictions, specific weapon classes, and things like that. So I think one of the things is you're not going to be able to heal yourself.
Yep, you're not going to be able to heal yourself. You're going to have a super heavy weapon.
Yeah.
But you can use other weapons. It will just be,
Yeah.
why would you in this extremely
Yeah.
restricted thing? It's all about, you need the support. Like, because while you're there and you've got the big gun, you're unstoppable. But the moment people start chipping away your health, if you can't pull out that pen and heal yourself, you need a teammate there, otherwise you're going to very quickly become vulnerable.
Like a medic archetype of some kind.
One of
crazy.
those, yeah.
Yeah.
Super heavy. Okay, the whole inability to heal thing is interesting. This feels very PvE focused, like they built an experience around it or something that they're planning to create. So doesn't really feel super PvP balanced, let's say. So let's get into the quick hits now. These are all the things that they kind of casually mentioned or were vague, and we're not sure how it's going to play out, and I didn't feel worth cutting a video because it's going to make the video 2 hours long. The Apex Valacar is being dialed in, but no timeline on when we'll see it. That is just, it's that they don't feel that they have provided the experience that they showed at CitizenCon yet. The med gun will get balance, same with medical gameplay. It will get love on the road to 1.0, which basically means be patient, because I thought we were on the road to 1.0 like 2 years ago. They wanted to add all sorts of audio changes to armors, like muffled sounds and big suits, like the radiation armor. They also did a bunch of work for Squadron 42 in terms of footsteps. Again, that theme. Eventually, only combat helmets will have the combat crosshair. EVA will be limited to flight suits or flight combat suits, but a dedicated backpack will exist for something like a boarding party, for example. This wasn't mentioned, but I assume it won't carry much or anything and is just a utility backpack. The crossbow is coming this year. People with the Shroud of the Avatar backing will get a different paint, and it will be in a bundle for them to sell. Jared made sure to include that. There are more guns similar to real-life guns that are going to be in the game. There is a lever action rifle, a med gun pistol, and a bullpup rifle. More stuff is in Squadron 42, but not for us, like weapon jamming. Med penning yourself while down is still a thing, and that's in Squadron 42 already, apparently. But overall, it sounds like you can only res people with a med pen or something like a med pen. And of course, at the end, they said they know desync is an issue, and Benoit will do a write-up about it at some point. So, big FPS episode, lots of cool news, but none of that news is something that's like on the forefront for us just yet, outside of a couple of things mentioned in the show. So with that, let's get into other updates. And of course, we're going to start out with a sneak peek. And at first glance, I was like, did these guys just change the chair from the last week's sneak? But no, there's a lot more that has changed here. And last week's sneak might not even be the Mark II. The first thing I see, I guess, is something I don't like, which is the Connie-like MFD in the chair. I loved the Aurora MFD placement on the original. Next is the foyer area, which is down to just one door. That's a big change for an Aurora. It's had 2 doors forever. It's kind of iconic about it. Engineering panel and more are on that wall, it looks like, and yeah, we'll have to see what's there. I'm really hyped for the next sneak peeks because the rear area looks much bigger in this image, and I can't wait to see what's back there because the Aurora just needs to get bigger, more useful, and more walkable, I would say. Patch Watch happened this week. Many things that we have already covered are in this, so I'll just briefly go over most of this and dive deeper into new things that we may not have known about. First up is the engineering shield armor balance stuff. They raise shield health, and energy weapon damage will damage shields a bit more. Armor is a bit more tricky, and they're all over the place with this, but their intention is for smaller weapons to ricochet off larger armors, as they've said for years. But as of the recording, I can't with confidence say that they nailed this down yet. The life support stuff, in theory, should make this matter, but I usually just have a helmet on. I can't say I've noticed life support before with any of these changes. Maybe the armor changes coming in the future will provide that. For radar, I think this will be one of the more impactful changes in 4.7 as the weapon ranges are effectively lowered now that we might really kind of help. It might really help bring combat closer, but we'll have to see how that plays out. On top of that, you will have to ping since you cannot see cross sections of ships without pinging. More on ping in a moment. And yeah, they listed the names of the radars, but no descriptions. Caves are next. They show up on your screen and radar much further away than before, which is nice. I found one randomly the other day, and the salvage contracts are more interesting. A lot more gold standard ships are available in the possible ships, which opens up component looting. Like, for example, the entry level one has a Gladius. Wonder if they have random components in their loadout now. I haven't checked that out yet, but I will in the near future. Lastly, missile changes and doors on ships. Missiles don't damage ship internals anymore, which means I assume they don't damage components, which is weird. Now we will have two types of missiles, higher damage with small explosion radius and lower damage with a big radius. They also are making it harder to breach ships with FPS weapons, so a boom tube or ship weapons will be needed. Monthly bundle is in March is a green and yellow Morozov armor, P6LR, and a Shiv paint. I am not a fan of the colors personally, but I have to admit I'm obsessed with the rust. I really want to see this kind of dynamic wear on ships and weapons and armor. Like we know they teased it, but yeah, we don't have it yet. So I'm excited to see it. Just another reminder though, this cost $26. I bought a whole cooked chicken for $8 last night. Stella Fortuna is St. Patrick's Day in the game. So they're doing a racing theme with this, and they just have a contest and community events, as well as an earnable helmet in Arena Commander if you race in classic mode. And there are some new Star Kitten theme paints, which are not just for me, or really are not for me. I just don't like them, but I love the idea of the sponsor logos, so I hope they do other paints with more sponsor logos. That'd be cool. And there are a ton of other paints and things that you could pick up. Link is in the description for this post, again, as well as all the other sources for today's video. Dev posts, we have some from, or at least one from Zach, that was on SEL explaining why we will be running with our gun up on our side like this. He must be an Apex fan, right? He just said it makes things look better and more obvious that we're sprinting, but I have to admit, I think it's already obvious that we're sprinting. So I don't know. It feels like they want the game to feel a bit more like a modern fast-paced shooter, which goes completely against what Chris Roberts said he wanted Star Marine to be back in the day. So I don't know. I'm way too old for this stuff. Isn't the average age of the community like 70? So I'm not sure what we're doing here on that one. And then lastly, Torsten chimed in on Spectrum to let us know that when you ping your radar, it will eventually be at the cost of EM signature. But that did not make it in yet and will make it in the future. And that will do it for today's show. Thank you so much for watching. I know it was a doozy. It's going to be a long one, but there was lots of information. Probably the biggest patch for me ever. I am actually enjoying the game, doing long streams, so check me out on Twitch. Check out boot.dev if you guys haven't yet. Our sponsor this month. I don't think we have any others, so kind of big. And yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I really, really appreciate you guys, and we will see you all next week.